It's Fernando Ruiz Art.
Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. And you're looking at my interpretation, my latest, newest interpretation of the classic 3 on a Straw composition. If you're an Archie fan, you know what the 3 on the Straw classic illustration is. Classically speaking, it's always Archie sitting in Pop's chocolate shop enjoying an ice cream soda with Betty and Veronica on either side of him. And of course, that classic arrangement has just been done over and over. I think every Archie artist that's ever worked there has taken a shot at it. I don't know if I've actually had done it on a cover. I know I've drawn it for a ton of commissions, and at conventions I draw it a lot. So I know I've drawn it, but I don't know if I've ever done it for a published piece. This one I'm doing to be made available at the currently ongoing KITTY Die Starstruck Kickstarter, which is going on right now. And as of this recording, I believe we've got about under 2 weeks. So we're almost down to the wire. But I'm going to link to it in the description below. The Kickstarter is for our latest volume of KITTY Die. And I hope you'll check out the campaign. And Dan Parent, my co-creator, and I, we're offering a lot of original artwork, Archie pages, Archie covers, a lot of artwork that we've done for ourselves, lots of pinups, sketch cards, all sorts of stuff. So if you've ever wanted a piece of artwork done by us, you could even commission something, please check out the Kickstarter. And like I said, I will link to it in the comments below, in the description below, and you could get right to it. Okay. Today, what I want to talk about is arms. How to draw arms. And arms are like anything else, where if they are giving you trouble, if arms is something you don't like to do because it's been difficult for you, well, make it easy. Simplify it. So, as with everything else, people get freaked out by arms because they think about the final product, the final detailed product. They think about anatomy, the muscles, maybe even clothing, and they may get into some foreshortening, and before you know it, they freak themselves out over how an arm is supposed to be structured. But really, anything in the world that you want to draw, you're capable of, as long as you, and anything that's scary or off-putting, you can do it by just stripping it down to its most basic components. And that's what I've done here with this very minimal arm that I've drawn. I've taken the different parts of the arm that we're going to look at in a moment, and I've reduced them to some very basic shapes. So the shoulder, for example, I've turned into a sphere. The upper arm, a cylinder. Another sphere for the elbow joint. Another cylinder for the forearm. And we're not going to get into hands. I've already spoken of hands, so please check out that video. But I'm using a wedge here for the hand. Okay, now let's take a closer look at what I've drawn here. And of course, you know, the basic shape arm, the mannequin-like arm, is not our end goal. This is our beginning. This is where we start. And this is also going to help us to do other things with the arm, as we'll hopefully see. But something structurally to be aware of when it comes to the arm. Notice that the basic shape of the arm, I'm talking collectively, all of this that we've done here, it tapers down. It gets narrower. And if we take a closer look, we have our shoulder up here in the form of this sphere, which is nice, round, it's wide. The upper arm tapers down, gets wide right around the the widest point of the bicep tricep region. Then that tapers down to the elbow. When we come out into the forearm, we widen out again a little bit, but not as wide as the upper arm. And then we taper down again to the wrist, which is narrower than when we taper down to the elbow. So we're constantly just getting narrower and narrower with the arm. So if we were to draw a non-basic shape arm, very roughly, we're looking at something like this. Very roughly, very simply, something like this. So now let's take a look at some of these components. I just want to, I'm not going to get into a ton of anatomy, but I do want to throw some highlights at you, some key landmarks. And I'm going to exaggerate the anatomy here, just so that we can see it a little better. So I'm going to draw a real powerhouse of an arm here. So the shoulders are known as, your shoulder muscles are your deltoids, okay? And you have 3 deltoids that lay side by side. Most of the time, from most angles, we're not going to see that third one because it's probably on the other side of these two. But they are these kind of, they're almost like teardropped or garlic shaped muscles that lay alongside each other. When we come down here, and I know, and I'm going to talk about this as we go. I know when we look at most shoulders, most real people's shoulders, they're going to be somewhat like that. Okay, not a whole lot of definition there, but most of us don't exercise to the point of definition where we will see the actual separations of the muscles, where we will see what the muscles are made of. Now, of course, moving on down to the upper arm, we have the biceps, and just like the I just said with the deltoids, most upper arms you look at and they're just a shape. But there are 2 biceps there, hence the name biceps. There are 2 of them there, and again, to really see, if you ever look at real bodybuilders, real Arnold Schwarzenegger types, maybe on those guys you'll see that degree of definition where the biceps actually start to really delineate that way, and you see what appears to be a stretch mark or a scar cutting down over the bicep. Behind the bicep, of course, is the tricep. Now, the thing to really remember is it's the tricep, and of course they're called triceps because there's 3 of them, and they're back there. They come out and they tuck in a lot higher than the bicep does. And then the tricep comes down and joins what we call the tendon of the elbow, okay, which is kind of a straight structure that comes down and culminates in the elbow. In between the triceps and the biceps is a very thin, very often overlooked muscle because it's usually very thin, very tucked in there. And that is called, I'm not going to write this because I'll misspell it, coracobrachialis. Just be aware it is there. It is a thin muscle. It's a long one too, but it's tucked in and, often gets forgotten. Your forearm, you've got a lot of forearm muscles, and they all have very long compound names like pronators, supinators, very long names. I'm not going to get into all those. But one key one that you should be aware of is brachioradialis, which is usually this mass here, kind of what joins the forearm to the upper arm. And sometimes, depending on your position, it may clip or overlap the bicep a little bit. But then you have a lot of other arms that essentially wrap around your forearm bones and are responsible for your forearm movements and maybe things like rotating your hands and so forth. So that's a very, very quick, very superficial tour of the anatomy of an arm. Really, we could even simplify things even more and say shoulder, upper arm, forearm. And it's important to be aware, and yeah, elbow. It's important to be aware of these pieces because being aware of those pieces, it will allow us to just do a whole lot more when it comes time to drawing arms. Especially when we want to do that forbidden, lost, scary, complicated science of foreshortening, where you are making things come forward, come at you. Last weekend I did a very quick lesson on foreshortening during one of the Kubert Schools, the first Kubert School online kids class, which I taught last Saturday. Be sure to check that out for the month of April. The Kubert School is offering absolutely free kids classes online Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. to 11 Eastern Standard Time. I taught the first one, and we have a few different instructors who will be teaching each week. So make sure you check that out. So there is my arm. Now notice when I'm drawing an arm, I'm really drawing it like I draw anything else. I start out very simply. I start out with my shapes, I position my shapes, and then I go in and then I will add the detail. And then I turn it into, we don't use the basic shapes with the intent of drawing an action figure arm or a mannequin arm. We draw it with the intent of ultimately shaping that. Okay, that's our foundation. That's how we begin. So, as always, my ultimate advice and parting comment is, if you want to learn how to draw arms really well, the best way to do it, draw lots of arms. Really sit down, draw arms, and not just bodybuilder arms. Draw real arms, women's arms, men's arms, any arms. To draw arms is to be armed. Get it? All right. I've gone far enough. I hope this helps. I hope this clears up the mysteries of the arms. If anybody has any questions, if there's anything I didn't cover that you're wondering about, if you want me to pick up foreshortening again, I happily will. Just let me know in the comments below. If this was worthwhile, if you enjoyed this, please click like. Please hit subscribe. Please make sure you're subscribed if you have subscribed before. And please keep coming back. Tell your friends, share these videos, and as always, keep drawing, my friends. Keep drawing. Bye-bye.